My view, ultimately, is that the sex in the Equality Act, it means biological sex. So a gender recognition certificate doesn't change it. And that means that in formal terms, if I'm right, and we just don't know whether or not I'm right on this, but if I'm right, in formal terms, the grant of a gender recognition certificate will make no difference at all to legal entitlement. And I don't think I can talk usefully about legal entitlement to access single-sex spaces. It's much more likely to be the other way around, legal ability of those running them to exclude. So my view is that if a space or service is within the single-sex exceptions in the Equality Act, because sex in the Equality Act means biological sex, if you have permission to exclude all male people, that means all male people, including those who self-identify as women, and including those who have a gender recognition certificate defining them as female. But that's not the end of the answer by any means, and that's the cause of my particular caution and my fear that this proposed change may operate in quite a cruel way to the group that it's intending to help, because it will create an expectation. It's already the case that there is a widespread belief that because people with a protected characteristic of gender reassignment are entitled not to suffer discrimination on that ground, it follows that they must be entitled to access all single-sex spaces provided for the opposite sex, or it follows that they must be entitled to be treated for all purposes as if they were the opposite sex. And of course that's not the case. The entitlement not to suffer discrimination on grounds of gender reassignment means, for example, that you can't be excluded from the men's toilets because if you're a trans-identifying male, because you can't be told, no, you can't come in here because you're trans. But what you can be told is, no, you can't come into this female-only space because you're not female. Even if you feel female, even if you identify as female, even if you have a gender recognition certificate that says you're female, still this is a female-only space. But that's sex discrimination. That's not gender reassignment discrimination. So the protection from gender reassignment discrimination, quite importantly, doesn't provide protection from exclusion from services and spaces provided for the opposite sex. But the problem that we have is that it's very widely believed that it does. And providing gender recognition certificates to a much wider group. And there's a wide belief that if you're trans at all, you're entitled to use spaces and services provided for the opposite sex. And there's probably an even wider belief that if you have a gender recognition certificate, that entitlement is even stronger. The world has to treat you as if you were the sex you wish you were. And I think that's legally wrong, but that expectation is going to be created. And then that expectation, to the best of my belief, is going to be disappointed when there will be litigation, there will be bitterly fought litigation on these questions. And my expectation is that the final outcome of that litigation will be that all those people who were given a gender recognition certificate, that much wider cohort, who had something that they very much wanted, they thought promised to them, will ultimately be disappointed of it. And that's a worry.